Okay. All right, we will talk about measure of precision. So last time we talked about standard deviation, where kind of give you an idea where you are compared with the average. Same thing with this one. We're going to talk about the average, but for today's lesson, most of the time when we talk about quartile, quartile is the way that we divide data, but instead of using average, this is another thing that we talk about is we're going to use a median. So before we move forward with the lesson, I need to make sure that you understand what a median is. So can you please put in the chat or unmute and tell me what is a median? What do your understanding of median? Because that's what we're going to focus on today. Not the average, but the median. Okay. Great. Median is the middle numbers, right? So that's just what we're going to focus. So that's different from all the things that we've been covered for the past few months, right? And statistic, what we're going to focus on is the average. Most of the time we look at the average and say, how do I compare myself with the average? Where am I, right? This one is not the average, it's the median. So it's the middle number, yes, but to make sure that if you look at the data set that I'm giving to you right now, okay, I'm not going to look at the middle values and say this is my median. I have to rearrange it, okay? So we're going to focus on today's quartile. The quartile is going to split the data that I'm giving to you and split into, like, think about the whole year, right? We have quarter one, we have quarter two, we have quarter three, and quarter four. And this is the data. Think of that way. We're going to split it up, and we talk about Q1, Q2, and Q3. We're not going to, so those are the things we will talk about. Quartile is split into 3 items, okay? So we're going to end up with Q1, Q2, and Q3. What it does is going to divide the data set into 4 equal parts. So when it does, it's going to divide into 4 equal parts. The reason we split it up into 3 equal parts because then we're going to use the percentage to determine where you are compared with the population. I fall in the first quarter, I fall in the second quarter, the third, or the last one. That way we say, okay, I'm doing well or not too well. That's how people use to compare products. They use to compare test score, and they look at the income for the year. So those are the things that we use to look at, okay? So we're going to talk more about what is Q1, what is the percentage, Q2 and Q3 in a minute. But before we do that, step number 1, when we find quartile, I need to rearrange my data set. I need to find the median, not just one median, couple medians, okay? So step number 1, I'm going to rearrange this so I know number 5 is the lowest. Then I can do to the next one. So quartile is a way for you to order your data set. You split it up into 4 equal parts. You're going to call Q1, Q2, and Q3. So I'm going to rearrange my data set. So 5, 7, 9, 10, 11, 13. So I'm going to ask you to please jot this down on a piece of paper because you want to have your note. Because when you take the test, like I said, it's much easier if you have your, 16, 17, yes. And then I have 18, 2 of those, 20, and then 21. So what I will do is once I rearrange this, I'm going to look for the median of this data set. Okay? If you look at my data set, and someone tell me what is the median, what values is the median for this one? I have 15 numbers total. So what values is my median? Can someone tell me? Well, we already talked about median is the middle number. I have my data set. I know some of you still counting. That's fine. I'll wait. Okay. Cool. I forgot 37. Oh, okay. You're right. 37. You're right. 37. Thank you. So if I have 37, okay, now my median is going to change because I just add 37. Okay. So to find the middle number, so I'm seeing the 5. I'm just going to count it in. So yes, I forgot 37. So that would change my answer. I have a different number now. Okay. 15, yes. So 15 is my median, which is also called Q2. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Xavier. It is 15. That's my median. Also, the median of the whole data set is Q2. For this part, from 5 to 14, what we call this one is the lower half. From 16 to 37 is we call the upper half. What we're going to do is we're going to look for Q1 and Q3. Q1 is the median of the lower half. So I'm going to look at this part from 5 to 14, and I'm going to look for the median of this data set. Okay, so the values will be, so I'm looking, if I have to look for the median of my lower half, what will be my median for this set? I'm no longer count 15. 15 is already used for Q2. I'm looking for Q1. Q1 is the median of the lower set. Yes, the J line is going to be 10. So this will be my Q1. Do the same thing for my upper half. I'm going to find my Q3. Okay, so I look for Q3. What will be my Q3? I'm going to look for this data set. Again, I'm not going to use 15 again because it's already for Q1. So I'm going to look from 16 all the way to 37. So I will look for the middle numbers. 18. Perfect. So I'm going to circle the 18. The one in the middle, which is going to be Q3. So this is quartile. Thank you, Justin, is 18. The quartile is, like I said, it splits the data set into 4 equal parts, right? We're gonna have how do we have 4 equal parts? Let's take a look. Okay, this from here, from the lowest to Q1, that is 1 part. Then we're gonna have from Q1 to Q2, that is another part. Then if you look again, it's from Q1 to Q3, that's the 3rd part. And then the last one is from Q3 all the way to the highest values, that's the 4th part. So quartile, what it does, even though we only have 3 Q1, Q2, and Q3, but it does split the whole data set into 4 equal parts. And why that is important, this is the one thing that I'm going to write in. So this is going to be the 25% of the data set. This is going to be 50%, 75%, and this one will go all the way up to 100. Okay, so what we're going to focus on, and we're going to talk about 25%. So Q1 represent 25, Q2 is 50, Q3 is 75. We're not talking about 100 because 100 is the highest values. So we're not going to talk about 100%. Or for some textbook, instead of use percentage, they use fraction 1/4, 1/2, 3/4. So you have a quarter, you have 50 cents, and then you have 75 cents. If you can think of that way, it's like a whole dollar. Okay. So any question how we calculate Q1, Q2, and look at the values or how we split it up? Any question for me before we move on to interpret what Q1 and Q2, Q3 represent? Questions? You okay? It's fine. All right. So the interpretation, if we have to say what does Q1 stand for, we can say for Q1, this one is talking about the test score of 15 employees. Okay, so this is a test score. What we can say, we can interpret is that we can say about for Q1, if we're going to interpret Q1, which is 10 right here, we can say that about 1/4 or 25% of the employee score 10 or lower. That's what it's saying. So Q1 is represent 25% or less. So if you take the test, if you took the SAT, right, and you got your score, and then callers look at your score and like, okay, this is the highest, it's 3,600. This person is the score. He or she belongs to the 25% of the population, or like, oh, they in the high percentage. This means they did really pretty well. So those are the things they use to compare. Okay, so that is Q1. We're going to talk about Q2. I think some of you already have an idea of how to interpret Q2. We can say about 1/2 or 50% of the employee score 15. Whoops. I write 150. 15 or lower. So that's, I wrote it wrong, it should be Q2. So Q2 is about 50% or 1/2. You don't have to say both. If you say 1/2, I'm good with that. If you say 50%, I'm okay. Okay, you don't have to write both. I put down both just in case. Some refer to use percent, some refer to use fraction. Okay, I'm going to ask you to type in the chat. Let's interpret Q3. What does Q3 stand for? Okay, I'm going to ask you to do that. Please tell me. That's kind of give me an idea, like I understand this, or like nope, I have no idea. So I'm going to ask you to type it in. You can do private chat me, or you can do in public. Doesn't matter. It's up to you. So Q3 is about 3/4 or 75% of the employees score 18 or less. So this is when we do it by hand. You actually have to rearrange them. However, we have that graphing calculator. We're going to do it. Okay. We're going to do we can use the calculator. So let's say we run into data set as like so many values. I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay. If you need to take a picture, go ahead. Take a screenshot. Do so. Use your phone. Take a picture. I will upload this document for you, so you should have this. But if you want to have it down right now, you may. Okay. You use your phone. Take a picture. Okay. We're going to run into this one. Like we have 25 numbers, which is, it's not too bad. Okay, it's not too bad. However, but if we actually do the data, we can have 100 or 1,000 values. Doing by hand is kind of tedious, but we can do it, right? So we're not going to do it by hand, but I'm going to show you how to use a graphing calculator to do it. So if you have your graphing calculator, I want you to take that out. I'm going to show you. Okay. What I need you to do, if you remember how to do it using, what am I trying to say? If you know how to do it, use how to calculate standard deviation using graphing calculator, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, the only thing now is we're going to look at different values. It's going to be in the same screen, but we just have to look at different values. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to have your calculator. If you don't have a graphing calculator, what I need you to do right now is open the Google Sheet. And I want you to type in all of these values into the column. Okay, so it's probably take us a little bit, we can do this a little bit faster. So if you have a calculator, check that out. I'm gonna ask you to do me a favor. Okay, can you take a picture of these values because I want to share the screen for graphing calculator. So can you go ahead, please take a picture so you have the numbers in front of you. Jot it down, copy it somewhere. Okay, if you have your phone, take a picture, screenshot, whatever you need to do. Okay, I'm about to share my graphing calculator screen. When I'm sharing my screen, I may not hear you. I'm sorry, I may not see your message. The last time, for my last class, I shared my screen for the calculator. They saw nothing and nobody said anything, so I ended up talking all by myself with a black screen for like 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So please just unmute Miss Wen. I cannot see anything. Can you check? Okay. I don't want to talk all by myself for 5 minutes and you not know what to do. All right. Okay. I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to share the calculator. So we go to stat. Okay. Go to stat. The same thing that you would do for standard deviation. So hit stat. Option 1, we're going to edit. We're going to enter in the score. So I already have the list enter. So I already have it done. Okay, I'm going to ask you to do it on your own. So please type in all the values. We're at 25. So stat, option 1, is exactly the same thing as you would do when you calculate standard deviation. Okay, so go ahead and do that. So enter it in. It's just in the first column, like what I have.